Hey, what's up? It's the Figure Hunter. Up for review, the Polar Ignite 2. So it came out a couple weeks ago. I think they just started pre-ordering and just started to release the actual devices. So we're going to talk about all the details and the differences between the Ignite and the Ignite 2. How does it compare as a fitness watch? How does it compare for CrossFit training and tracking and high-intensity interval training? Because everything on the Figure Hunter channel and the FigureHunter.com website is focused for tracking and testing devices for the purpose of CrossFit and high-intensity interval training, some of the alternative type workouts to running, biking, and swimming. So with that, please stay tuned. I got the Venu 2S on the way in the mail on Monday. I cannot wait to check the new heart rate sensor and a CrossFit workout. As I always say, you should always wear a chest strap with all your watches. Link them to a chest strap. Don't trust your optical wrist base, and you can take your watch off and just wear the chest strap, and it's not cumbersome. But anyway, let's get to the Ignite 2. I'm going to try to bulldoze through some of the details so that this review doesn't go too long, because in all actuality, I liked the Ignite, and I like the Ignite 2 better because of some of the baseline things it does for workouts, for training load, and for recovery, for sleep recovery. So it does what I think is the most essential aspects for CrossFit training, or a training regimen where you're really putting a lot of load on yourself, and then you're tearing your body down, and then you're waiting to see if you built it back up in a night's sleep. So it accomplishes all the primary things you would want. I have some critiques for it, but the bottom line, we're going to plow through this, is that it's not that different from the Ignite 1. I don't feel like I'm wearing that much of a difference. It did add some features that maybe would be beneficial if you're going to go buy a Polar watch right now and you were in the $200 price range and you're a CrossFit or high-intensity interval training and you don't mind a little bit smaller watch. This would be a great watch for you because it does all the training load details you would want it to on a big, beautiful, bold, colorful screen. So we're going to dive through it. I'm going to break it down into two main areas. So workouts and wellness. So workouts, training, post-training, all the details there, and wellness, like the things that it tracks for wellness. What are the real differences? I'm going to spell them out right now. So basically, you got updates to the widgets and watch faces. You now have weather, you have music controls, no onboard storage, you have activity minutes, so how much time you spent in different heart rate zones. You have energy source tracking, so when you do a workout, tell how many calories how many carbs and how many proteins you burned. You can broadcast the heart rate, which I've never tested and tried, but you can broadcast the heart rate to another device, and it's got some sort of power save options. It is the same weight. It is the same diameter, 43 millimeters, same thickness, 10.5 millimeters. So the watch itself is 21 grams with the band itself, 35 grams. That's the same as the original Ignite. It's actually super light. So if you compare it to a Phoenix 6, it's coming in at like 65 grams just for the watch. This is 21 grams, so 30% cheaper. It has an AMOLED screen, which if you compare that to a transflective on the market, Garmin's one of the brightest. It has 60 lumens, Coros, some of the other brands in the 25 to 27 lumens. This has got 600 lumens, so it's bright as a flashlight. It's great. And that's basically all it has. So that's all the differences. The widgets and watch faces, energy sources, heart rate broadcast, power save, and everything else is basically the same. It is a GPS watch, so you don't need a phone to go out on a run to be able to track your GPS accuracy. So it will accomplish that. I think in the website it said there's 5 days of battery life. I just consistently got 3.2 to 3.5 days with one workout a day, or roughly therein, 45 minutes to an hour of workout tracking. But what I'm going to do is we're going to do all of it all at once. We're going to sort of look at the hands-on, what you see in a workout, and what you can track in workout loads, as well as what you see in wellness on the watch. And then we're going to look at all the different things in the app, and then we'll come back together. So I'm going to try to get through this as quickly as possible to give you my thoughts and overall details. So let's dive in. Okay, so looking at the watch, you're going to see a few basic specs. This is the main screen. It is a big, beautiful, vibrant screen. So if you compare it to a transflective screen, it is, like 10 times brighter. Like literally, this is a, Garmin Fenix 6, and it is one of the brightest transflective screens that is out there, and that's with its brightness actually turned on. In dark settings, it's just like, it super pops. It looks great. The case itself is 43 millimeters. The thickness is 10.5. So if you were to compare that to a gargantuan watch, you're going to see that it is not gargantuan. So it's really, really thin. Really, you can barely notice it on your wrist. They came out with this new buckle strap system, so it basically, it's sort of weird. I don't love it. I forced myself to use it the last 2 weeks that I've been testing, but I don't particularly love it. It's 20 millimeter quick release. This is the Polar Vantage, Polar Precision Prime. I think it's the 1.0. It doesn't say 1.0 or 2.0, but it is the same color metrics, which if you look at it, it's like, yes, there it is, red and green versus the Grit X and the Polar Vantage V2. When I did a test on this for CrossFit training, the Grit X Polar Vantage V2 Precision Prime 2.0 color metric scheme got 67% accurate. This got 70% accurate, so it actually turned out to be a little more accurate. So when you get into it, we're just going to dive in. So this is one of the new widgets. I'm just going to focus on the widgets that are different. So you tap into this. This gives you a weekly summary. This hasn't been a great week. I only had 30 minutes in the red zone. It's not good, but it'll tell you minutes in the zones, basically your log, and that's pretty much it. This is your back button. There are no other buttons, so you just continue to go back here and you use the touch screen. This is the weather widget, which will give you weather details over the upcoming future. You know, you can see a whole bunch of information there. So that's neat. It's not, I don't think, fundamentally. So FitSpark recommendations for the day. I apologize. I wish I could show the wellness data from the sleep recovery, training load, current heart rate, activity, like how busy you were for the day, just workout coupled with just how much movement all around. Unknown media. So this would be the music controls. My phone is now, so this would be what would look like. There it is. You know, it's wanting to control something. It can't because my phone is actually recording the video, but you basically just skip backwards and forwards once you start the music on your watch. So you push the button to get to the main training program. So you have your training. You can scurry through. I'm not going to show that because it is the exact same as all the other Polar watches and is the same as the Ignite and even the same type of screens as the Unite. So breathing metrics, timers, so countdown as well as stopwatch. This is the watch views, so you can see what widgets you want to have appear. So I have all the widgets except for my name. So you can change that there, fitness test, and then the settings. Within the settings, a lot of these are the same. So within the general settings, you can set the backlight of the brightness of the backlight to be a little bit different. But one of the minor changes was you can change the watch face. So you can go into analog or digital. There's like 2 options for each. So let's just switch it to analog. And I don't like the light pop. We'll go with pearl. I don't even remember what that is. Red. We're going to have that as this accent screen. No, I don't want that. I want red. It'll say, okay, great. We've chosen it. I'm not going to get in all this. I apologize for you probably taking the time to do it. So there's the, it is sharp. So that if you can look at the, the screen itself, everything is just got like a ridged bezel. So it's all sort of super detailed. When you go to look at a workout, what you get on the watch. So obviously that's going to be an important factor to how you evaluate. And there's like the actual watch only screen, how you evaluate, the impact of the workout. You don't have cardio load built into this. So like if you're detraining, overtraining, peaking, that sort of thing, but it does have your, it does take a second sometimes just to make sure it registers. It does have your training logbook. So here's the last few workouts. Again, it was just like short burst today, not as much yesterday, but at least a little bit longer. So you get your cardio load score, how much time you spent in each zone, and the energy used. So this is another new feature that's not available on the Ignite. So again, we're just focused on those things. So how much carbs, protein, and fats you actually burn during that workout. So you can track those metrics, which you could not track before. So a little bit of a step on the wellness side. So that's one aspect of the wellness, is how your workouts are affecting, how much your consumption you're putting in. The other, thing is, activity. So how much time you spent moving around that day, how busy of a day it was, as well as, tracking the intensity zone. So that's another sort of wellness factor. One thing I could not go into is, I did not track my sleep last night. I put it on the watch charger and fortunately it wasn't there, and I'm not going to go back to looking at, but we'll look at all the same stats we're going to see on the app are also featured on the watch. So we can see all those stats in the app. If you've seen any reviews, you can see what it looks like in other reviews as well. So let's dive into the app and look at the features there and then come back together. Okay, the first simple thing is the colors. You can get gold, you can get blue, you can get pink and rose, and you can get black. So all the different colors, have different titles. Those are the 4 primary colors that it comes in. If you want to choose it, it's $229. This is the main landing page. So how active you were. That activity is actually useful in some ways. I know that I did not work out as much as I should have today. Had just a brief 22-minute session, and now I'm detraining. So you have a basic summary of your whole day. A lot of this you've seen before, so we're going to try to skip over most of it. This is because I didn't track my sleep last night, which is regretful, but it does give you really useful details when it does track your sleep. So you have on the right, you have your sleep score, and if you tap into that button on the right, you can see a lot of details there. And you can see just a lot of functional pieces of the sleep which goes into the score. And this is the autonomic nervous system recharge. This is all featured on all of Polar's watches, but I'll just touch on it. It's 4 hours of heart rate variability, beat to beat minute tracking, beat to beat tracking, and breathing rate. So it does take your breathing rate, your heart rate variability metrics into account when you're tracking the overall wellness or the recovery you experience that night. But it is only taking a 4-hour window versus some of the watches, so specifically versus Garmin, who takes heart rate variability all the time. This does track, in my opinion, better than Whoop, because Whoop only takes one heart rate variability metric right before you wake up. That's not looking at the impact of recovery throughout the rest of the night. So either way, that's your recovery piece, and then you have your workout piece. So what does it look at like to actually track or look at the workout intensity? So it gives you a couple questions. Not going to update it, but this is the workout from Tuesday. So it gives you all the specifics up top, but the biggest thing that is available on the Ignite 2, it's like it is available on all the high-end Polar watches. You get this training load pro metric. So you have your perceived load, but you also have the actual trimp, the calculation of how much, it impacted your body, how much physical exertion you're under. And that score will flow into your load tracking over time. You can see your training zones as well as you can see your calorie burn rate. So obviously how much you spent burning carbs, proteins, and fats from the workout. So that's another useful piece, but I really like seeing just the basic overall zones and the overall score. When you get, for me, on a CrossFit 1-hour class, 100 or better usually means you're exerting yourself at a reasonable level. And then you can click here on where it says cardio load and then it says detraining. You can click on that and it'll take you to your training load over time. Now, you can scroll back and forth this way and see it in one metric, or you can hit the little arrows all pointing in the 4 corners and it'll turn it sideways. This I always show in Polar videos because you can see your training over your whole life. This is not available on the Unite, but on every other Polar watch it is. And I just happen to like it on the Ignite 2 because the Ignite 2 has a better screen. So it always has a couple different basics. The cardio load is the exertion level for that particular workout or that particular day. The strain is your average over the last 7 days. So like, see, I was out of town for a number of these days in the middle. So my strain average fell. So it was peaked up at 62. And then it started to trickle because my workouts actually stopped. And then I had to build it back up. So that's my 7-day average. And the tolerance is your 28-day average. So how much time you've spent over the last 28 days exercising and how much your average, weekly average was, but taking into account all 28 days. So if you can see, your strain over your tolerance equals whether you were building or declining. So I'm on a decline. But see, in this area, my strain was well over my tolerance because I had a couple really hard workouts. So my 7-day average was much greater than my 4-week average. Therefore, it was saying at the bottom here, it's giving me orange. It's like, careful, you might be overtraining. In green at the bottom is where you're training optimally to maintain or grow your fitness. And the gray is when you need to get off your butt and do something. So that's the basics. So you can see productive, detraining. Here's overreaching. So I actually was testing 2 watches. So I think I might have kept a couple of these metrics on twice. But you can see the little Band-Aid. It tells you you're doing too much because your 7-day average is way over your 28-day average. So super useful information for tracking your training load, and it's all available on this relatively cheap watch with a big pretty screen. So that is the basics. You can do some nice things. So in the devices, so this is where you can go to track some of the settings, to what wrist you put it on. But what I was going to show you is on the sport profiles, you can go into high intensity interval training, hit edit. And each watch has its own edit. So this is the Polar Ignite 2. At the bottom, you can make your own screen. So you technically could add 4 pieces of data. Not a whole lot, but at least this is what I just wanted to show you where you can actually create your own screens of information. It doesn't track laps. Oh, and there it goes. So that's it, folks. Let's come back together for a summary.
So what do I think overall? Now, if you're just tracking the accuracy of the optical heart rate accuracy on your wrist, remember in the video, and I'll put a link to the description, link to the video down below, but it's only 70% accurate from multiple of workouts for CrossFit tracking that I did. So you want to connect to a chest strap. Don't mess around. Don't guess. connect to a Verity Sense on the armband or one of the other armband ones, or the H10 or H9 chest strap, and just be certain that it's accurate. You want your load to be accurate over time. So what do I really think? I think that it is a great solution at a reasonable price for CrossFit tracking, for tracking a training regimen, load on your body, the impact of the workout, as well as, tracking your progress over time. It accomplishes all these things well, and it gives all the wellness things. So how did you recover in your autonomic nervous system? How do you recover in just the overall sleep quality and the aspects of their... I do think Garmin's doing these things better. I think they have the body battery, which is heart rate variability tracking all over time. They have, sleep analytics that are right on par. They have improved recovery time, which this doesn't give recovery time from one workout to the next. But you have all the backbone. So you have training data, you have wellness and recovery, you have a big, beautiful screen and reasonable battery life at 3.2. One thing I will say about the battery, one of the issues that I did have, and this is just sort of a side note as I'm flying through, is that if you go below 10% battery, it will not let you record a workout. That, to me, is crazy. I think that's wrong. It's just absolutely wrong. So you can't record. You got to drop below 10%. I had 8% one day, and it wouldn't let me record. Like, I want to run it till I die. I know I'm going home after this. So can't do it. It's not allowed. So that's one issue. I wish it had a bigger case. I do wish that it just had more of a robust feel to it. I don't care about the multiple screens, but the plus is obviously the screen. Polar, the one thing, when you compare it to an M2, and I'll give you the stats on that, is that the M2 screen is just so dim. It's not legible for me on a regular active basis. This screen is beautiful. It's awesome. It has all the same analytics, the analysis and analytics. So, simple and all around. So what does it differ? How does it differ from a couple of the other watch manufacturers, a couple of watches in the industry? The M2, Polar's own Vantage M2, it's not going to, the Ignite 2 is not going to have multi-sport, so you can't do triathlons. It's not going to have cardio load displayed on the watch, but it's all in the app, and that's not a big deal. It's not going to have buttons, so you can't do tracking, rounds for time. You can't do automatic lap tracking on this. You get what you get. And but so it doesn't have buttons, and you have to control it by the screen. The screen can be finicky a little bit. I didn't have a whole lot of problems, and you get a super dim screen that's not really legible on the M2. So that's just the primary differences. So I think it's $299. So the Ignite 2 is a great solution. I would say for CrossFit training, it's a better solution. It's a better solution than the M2. How does it compare to the 245, the Garmin Forerunner 245? Well, Garmin tracks heart rate variability all the time. They have a million different customizations, different widgets. It's more functional as a watch day to day, in my opinion. You get training load specific, so anaerobic and aerobic effect, impact on your body. You can track... The training load is still one number, so it's just like the cardio load is one number here, so you can see the specifics there, but you get recovery time, and the recovery time now takes into account the quality of your sleep and the body battery, and now Garmin's adding high in-depth sleep analytics. How does the Ignite 2 compare to the Venu 2? Now, that is the question, and I should have put that in the beginning. That is the question. The Venu 2 is an awesome-looking watch. I can't wait to test it. I had to order the 2S because the 2's out, and I'm paying for it all my money, so I wish I had the 2. But the 2 is like an end-all, be-all unless you want to track your training over time. So if you were saying, I don't care about tracking my training over time, I don't care about seeing my load over time, I don't care about seeing like the exertion impact on my body of the workout, I don't care about seeing recovery time, then the Venu will crush this. It'll crush it in price too. I mean, the Venu's $400. So, but it'll crush this as far as the overall capabilities. You have like a million watch faces. You have gadgets and widgets and things you can download. You actually have high quality sleep analytics on that version of the Garmin. So, that's the real comparison. It's twice as much, but you don't get the training analysis. So for me, somebody that's tracking their training over time to see if I'm slacking off too much, like how bad am I slacking off? Do I need to kick myself in the rear to go do more? So it'll show you that. It won't show you recovery time in between workouts on the Venu. So you don't know, like an idea of how much time you should probably be taking off if you had one really long workout. So we can all have a sense of our body, but there's analytical things that Garmin's coming out with. So the Venu doesn't have all these things. And this doesn't have recovery time, but it does have cardio load and tracking your load over time. So you can see the exertion score, the trimp score, the cardio load score on your workout itself, which you can't see on the Venu. So I've spoken too long. That's too much. So this is the Polar Ignite 2. I would say this is a good solution at a reasonable price point with a great visible, pretty color clear screen that you can use for CrossFit training that will track some of the backbone and the basics of the details.
Again, it's a little slim and trimline, you know, the size and the shape of the watch. But overall, I think it's one of the top ones if you're looking for a budget watch that'll accomplish some of these things. Let me compare it to the Coros Pace 2. I apologize for adding this into the last second. So the Coros Pace 2, it will give you the workout analytics. You can pair it to any chest straps, so even Ant Plus chest straps. It'll give you the exertion scores, so the training effect, and I think it's aerobic and anaerobic. It will track your load over time, but Coros doesn't do a good job with sleep tracking. They don't do any heart rate variability tracking, and you can't see your load over time. The load tracking is not good, so that is primary to me. So the Coros Pace 2 can do multisport. It is a lot of other great things. It's a transflective screen, so the screen's super dim, relatively this super vibrant, brilliant screen. So you can do triathlons, but the Pace 2 can't track your load in a way that I found usefully helpful. It's got some sort of load tracking, but it just went up, like you worked out. Oh, you didn't work out. Oh, you worked out. Oh, you didn't. And the Polar's, as we saw, is super in depth in the sleep tracking. So no wellness, no recovery. So none of that stuff. So you're missing all those things. So I think this watch, in a way, depending on what your appetite is, it has more features for training, more in-depth training program, more intense training program than the Venu 2 and the Coros Pace 2. So that's the thoughts. Fit Gear Hunter. Stay tuned for more. Can't wait to come out with upcoming videos.